I'm joined now by Israeli Defense Forces spokesperson and retired Lieutenant Colonel Peter Lerner. It is good to see you this morning, Colonel. We are also happy those hostages are safe. Give us a picture of the scale of this mission. We just heard James report with some of the detail, but the ground troops, the airstrikes, how long this lasted.
Martha, this was an effort conducted and planned over several weeks in order to get the best result. And indeed, it came together with extensive intelligence, a map of intelligence that created a good grasp of how the enemy were holding the 4 hostages. And that then was translated into an operational plan to actually bring them out. There was so much that could have gone wrong in this rescue mission. We need to keep in mind that all of our war efforts is crafted and designed about bringing back the hostages. So for the success of this operation, at this time, I believe that it was a huge feat from a professional perspective, but also on the level of morale here in Israel. And it was a very, very jubilant day yesterday, where people were cheering on the beaches of Tel Aviv and dancing outside the hospital where the hostages were brought later for their medical examinations. So the operational side absolutely reflects and spills over into societal issues. And there is a hope that we can continue to bring home the hostages either through negotiations or in special force operations like we did yesterday.
And Colonel, part of this mission were the airstrikes. We saw buildings destroyed in a civilian area in broad daylight. There were people on the street during this attack through the air. Did you factor in the loss of so many Palestinians in this operation?
So we don't know how many casualties were caused in the strike, in the release and rescue operation. And I'd be very cautious at accepting any figures and numbers that Hamas are putting out.
But even the Israelis, Hamas is putting out 274, but even the Israelis, another spokesman from the IDF said there were fewer than 100. That's a significant amount of casualties. Did they come from those airstrikes in broad daylight?
Martha, every civilian life lost in this war is a tragedy. Every civilian life lost in this war as a result of how Hamas has operated. Let's think about, just for a moment, where they were holding the hostages. Within civilian houses, within people's apartments. In the same apartment they were being held were the families that own the apartments. This exemplifies specifically how Hamas are operating. And indeed, when we extracted and snatched the hostages, Noah Argamani, Almog Meir, Andrei Kozlov, and Shlomi Ziv, when we extracted them out, the forces came under extensive attack in an attempt to kill both them and the hostages.
And is that the reason for the airstrikes? Tell me why those airstrikes were necessary, why buildings were destroyed in that attack.
The forces came under fire from a 360-degree threat. RPGs, AK-47s, explosive devices on the way, mortar rounds. It was and is a war zone. And so civilians in that is the tragedy of civilians being caught up in this is precisely because of how Hamas is battling us on the battleground. Our responsibility, our first and foremost responsibility, is to rescue the hostages, to bring them home, to create a better security situation for Israelis, and I would say for Palestinians alike. Hamas have to go. Hamas can't be trusted with the powers of government because that is what they will do. They will build a terrorist army. They will infiltrate into Israel and abduct partygoers from the Nova Party and hold them hostage in places like Nusirat, in apartment buildings.
Again, Colonel, we are all grateful the hostages are safe, but just one final question. Would you carry out a similar rescue mission to get the other 116 hostages, no matter the cost to civilians in Gaza?
There can be a rescue mission like what happened yesterday, but there could also be negotiations that create the opportunity. Our role is to create the conditions either way, that Hamas realize that they should give back the hostages. They should set the hostages free. We would not have to be at war at all with Hamas. And the war can be over today if Hamas lets the hostages free. Is that too much to ask?
We appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
Good day.